The ocean is Earth's most restless feature, covering over 70% of our planet and never sitting still. Its constant motion, from gentle waves to monstrous swells, regulates climate, moves heat, and delivers nutrients. Every ripple and surge is part of a grand planetary performance, powered by forces far beyond just the wind. The ocean's endless dance is vital for life on Earth. But what drives this perpetual motion? There's a cosmic force at play, one we're about to uncover. So, let's dive in and solve the mystery of why the ocean never, ever sits still. Spend a day at the beach and you'll notice the water creeping up or retreating. This is the tide, the ocean's slow, deliberate breath. Tides are a powerful, predictable rhythm, orchestrated by the moon's gravitational pull. Meanwhile, waves are the ocean's wild side, shaped by wind and energy, not by water traveling long distances. Tides and waves, one ancient and steady, the other chaotic and fleeting, combine to make the ocean dynamic and fascinating. Understanding both is the key to unlocking the ocean's true nature. Let's explore how these forces work together to shape our world. To understand tides, look up to the moon, the secret puppet master of our oceans. The moon's gravity pulls on Earth's water, creating a bulge-high tide. As Earth rotates, we pass through this bulge, giving us two high tides each day, one where the moon pulls water toward it, and one on the opposite side as Earth is pulled away. The sun joins in, sometimes amplifying and sometimes weakening the tides. This celestial choreography shapes coastlines and life itself. The daily rhythm of the tides is a cosmic dance between Earth, Moon, and Sun. Our journey continues as we explore the ocean's surface drama. While tides are slow and steady, waves are the ocean's immediate energetic response to wind. Wind blowing across water transfers energy, creating ripples that grow into waves. The stronger and longer the wind blows, the bigger the waves become. These waves can travel thousands of miles, carrying the memory of distant storms. Each wave is a message from weather systems far away, sculpting the ocean's ever-changing surface. The wind is the artist, and waves are its signature. Not all waves are equal. Some are tiny ripples, others are towering giants. Three ingredients make monster waves: wind speed, wind duration, and fetch, the stretch of open water. As wind feeds energy into the water, waves grow taller and longer until gravity pulls them down and they break. This cycle of growth and breaking happens constantly, especially in stormy regions like the Southern Ocean. Here, ferocious winds and vast fetch create the world's largest waves. These watery mountains travel the globe, carrying the story of epic storms. Even the calmest sea can hide the memory of a distant tempest. But when you watch a wave travel across the ocean, the water itself isn't really going anywhere. Just the energy is moving. Like a Mexican wave in a stadium, the energy moves, but you stay in your seat. Water particles mostly move in small circles, passing energy along. But when a wave reaches shore, its base slows, the crest outruns it, and the wave crashes in a burst of foam and spray. All that energy is finally released, ending the wave's epic journey. While wind usually stirs the sea, sometimes the Earth itself unleashes waves, tsunamis. These waves, born from underwater earthquakes, move the entire ocean, not just the surface. Out in deep water, a tsunami is nearly invisible, but as it nears shore, it rises into a powerful, fast-moving wall of water, flooding miles inland. The ocean's might comes not just from the sky, but from the restless Earth below. Tides are the ocean's deep, rhythmic breathing, a slow, predictable pulse that moves entire oceans. The main culprit? Our pale neighbor, the moon, yanking on Earth with an invisible gravitational string. Its gravity tugs on the water, creating a vast bulge that follows the moon as it orbits. When your coastline spins into this bulge, you experience high tide. We are the ants on a spinning, squishy ball, mesmerized by the moon's invisible string. The moon pulls on Earth's water, creating a bulge and a high tide. But most places get 2 high tides a day. Why? The answer? The moon pulls on the whole planet, not just the water. Water closest to the moon is pulled hardest, but the solid Earth is pulled too, leaving water behind on the far side, making a second bulge. So we get two high tides, one from water pulled toward the moon, one from Earth pulled away, a beautifully symmetric system. The moon may be the star of our tidal show, but it's not the only celestial body with a gravitational say in the matter. There's another much bigger character lurking in the wings: the sun. The sun is absolutely enormous, about 27 million times more massive than the moon, so its gravitational pull is incredibly powerful. It's the force that holds our entire solar system together, after all. So why doesn't it create tides that are thousands of times bigger than the moon's? The answer, as is often the case in astrophysics, comes down to distance. The sun might be a giant, but it's a very distant giant. The sun is almost 400 times farther away from us than the moon is. Because the strength of gravity weakens dramatically with distance, the sun's tidal influence on Earth is significantly less than the moon's. It's not the absolute gravitational pull that matters for tides, but the difference in pull from one side of the Earth to the other. Because the sun is so far away, the difference in its gravitational tug on the near side of the Earth versus the far side is quite small. The moon, being so much closer, exerts a much more uneven pull across our planet, making its tidal effect more pronounced. As a result, the sun's tidal force is only about 46% as strong as the moon's. So the sun is a secondary player, but its role is still crucial. It creates its own, smaller tidal bulges on the Earth, independent of the moon's. This means that the total tide we experience on any given day is actually the sum of two separate tides: the main lunar tide and the smaller solar tide. Most of the time, we are living with the combined effect of these two celestial forces pulling on our oceans. The real fun begins when we look at how these two sets of tides interact, either working together to create a supertide or working against each other in a cosmic tug-of-war. This interplay between the sun and moon explains why the height of the tides isn't the same every single day. The daily rhythm of two high tides and two low tides is set by the spinning Earth and the moon, but the intensity of those tides, whether they are exceptionally high or unusually low, is determined by where the sun is in relation to the Earth-Moon system. It's a dynamic and constantly changing alignment. Sometimes the sun and moon are teammates, pulling in the same direction. At other times, they are rivals, pulling at right angles and trying to cancel each other out. This celestial alignment dictates the weekly and monthly rhythm of our tides. When the sun and moon align, their gravity combines to create spring tides, higher highs, and lower lows. This happens during full and new moons, stretching the oceans into dramatic bulges. A week later, when the sun and moon are at right angles, their forces work against each other, creating neap tides. Neap tides mean less dramatic highs and lows, a gentle, subtle ocean rhythm, cycling every 2 weeks. While we've been focusing on the grand sloshing spectacle of the ocean tides, it's worth remembering that gravity is, well, an equal opportunity force. The moon and sun don't just pull on the water, they pull on absolutely everything. This means that there are tides not just in the oceans, but in the atmosphere and even in the solid rock beneath our feet. These are much harder to notice, of course, because air is so much less dense than water, and rock is, well, rock. But they are happening all the same. A constant, subtle flexing of our entire planet in response to the celestial tugging from above. The atmospheric tide is the most significant of these hidden tides. The air we breathe is a fluid, just like water, and the moon's gravity creates a bulge in our atmosphere in the exact same way it creates a bulge in the ocean. This means the air pressure is slightly higher when the moon is overhead or on the opposite side of the planet. The effect is tiny, far too small for us to feel, and usually completely masked by the much larger pressure changes caused by weather systems. However, with sensitive enough instruments, scientists can measure this predictable rise and fall of atmospheric pressure, a silent, airy tide that mirrors the ocean below. Even more bizarre is the concept of the earth tide, or land tide. Yes, the solid ground you are standing on is also rising and falling twice a day. The continents are not perfectly rigid. They have a degree of elasticity, like very, very stiff jelly. As the moon and sun pull on the planet, the rock itself deforms. In the middle of a large continent, the ground might rise and fall by as much as 50 centimeters, about 20 inches, over the course of a day. You never notice it because everything around you, the buildings, the trees, the roads, is rising and falling with you. It's the ultimate we're all in this together situation. This constant flexing of the solid Earth has some pretty profound consequences. It generates a tiny amount of heat through friction, contributing to the heat in the planet's interior. More importantly, it actually affects the ocean tides we see. Because the solid seabed is also rising when the ocean tide is high, the relative change in water level we measure at the coast is slightly less than it would be on a perfectly rigid planet. The land rises up to meet the water, dampening the apparent size of the ocean tide. It's a final, mind-bending twist. The tides are so powerful they don't just move the sea. They move the very ground beneath our feet. The moon and sun pull on our oceans, creating two bulges of water. But Earth isn't a smooth marble. Continents and ocean floor features get in the way, making tides messy and unique everywhere. The continents act like giant tidal traffic jams, disrupting the flow and creating a patchwork of tidal patterns all over the globe. That's why the tides you see at your beach are wonderfully different from anywhere else on Earth. The world's oceans are chopped into giant basins, like the Atlantic and Pacific, each behaving like a massive, oddly shaped bathtub. Water sloshes back and forth, creating unique standing waves and calm pivot points called amphidromic points. Around these points, tides rotate like a slow pinwheel, sweeping high tide around the basin. Caudal lines radiate out, tracking high tide's journey, a complex dance shaped by the moon and each ocean's unique slosh. The Bay of Fundy in Canada is home to the world's highest tides, over 16 meters, taller than a 4-story building. Its funnel shape and perfect timing with the Atlantic's tides create a phenomenon called tidal resonance. Water rushes in and out, leaving boats stranded at low tide and floating high just hours later. The Bay of Fundy is nature's ultimate tidal show. From the extreme of the Bay of Fundy, let's travel to the other end of the tidal spectrum, the Mediterranean Sea. If you go for a holiday in Greece or Italy, you might notice something strange. You can leave your towel near the water's edge all day and not have to worry about it getting washed away. The tidal range in most of the Mediterranean is tiny, often less than 30 centimeters. In some places, the tide is barely noticeable at all. It feels less like an ocean and more like a gigantic, placid lake. Why does this huge body of water seem to ignore the moon's command when the much smaller Bay of Fundy is going bonkers? The primary reason is that the Mediterranean is almost completely landlocked. It's connected to the vast Atlantic Ocean only by the very narrow and shallow Strait of Gibraltar. This tiny gap acts like a bottleneck. The enormous tidal bulge of the Atlantic, a wave with a wavelength of thousands of kilometers, simply can't squeeze through this little doorway. Only a tiny fraction of the Atlantic's tidal energy can enter the Mediterranean. The sea is effectively shielded from the big oceanic tide. It has to try and generate its own tide in response to the moon's pull, but it's just not big enough to get a good slosh going. Think back to our bathtub analogy. To get a really good standing wave going, you need a big bathtub. The Mediterranean, while large, isn't quite large enough to have a natural resonance that matches the 12-hour tidal cycle. Its natural sloshing period is much shorter. So, the moon's rhythmic pull is out of sync with the sea's preferred rhythm. It's like trying to push a child on a swing with terrible timing. You push at the wrong moments, your efforts cancel each other out, and the swing barely moves. The moon is trying to get a tidal wave going, but the Mediterranean just isn't playing along. This combination of being disconnected from the main ocean and having the wrong dimensions means that the tides in the Mediterranean are incredibly weak. There are no major amphidromic systems, no significant resonance, and no funneling effects to amplify the small tide it does have. This has had a huge impact on history. Civilizations like the ancient Greeks and Romans, who did most of their sailing on the Mediterranean, developed their maritime technology without having to worry about major tidal currents or changing water levels. It's one of the reasons their harbors were relatively simple constructions compared to those built on the Atlantic coast. The calm, tideless nature of their sea shaped their entire relationship with the ocean. There's no such thing as a normal tide. Every coastline has its own tidal signature, shaped by geography and location. In Vietnam's Gulf of Tonkin, there's just one high and one low tide a day. The UK, meanwhile, is famous for huge tides, thanks to its position on a wide, shallow shelf. The Caribbean, like the Mediterranean, has tiny tides, blocked by surrounding islands. Tides are a global phenomenon, but every coast tells its own story. The moon is the grand conductor of our oceans, shaping tides and life on Earth. But what if it vanished? Suddenly the tides would shrink, the ocean's rhythm fading to a whisper. Ecosystems depending on the daily ebb and flow would collapse. The great cosmic heist would leave our oceans quieter, and our world forever changed. The moon's rhythm shapes life on Earth. Its light and tides guide animals, from coral spawning to sea turtles nesting. Without it, nature's clock would break. Corals, turtles, and countless creatures would lose their cues. Nights would be darker, and our ancient connection to the moon, our guide, our inspiration, would vanish. The cosmic metronome that has ticked away our planet's history would be broken. Without the moon, Earth would be a darker, wilder, and wobblier world. The moon keeps our planet's tilt stable, giving us predictable seasons. Without it, Earth's axis would drift chaotically, causing extreme climate swings. The moon also shields us from asteroids, taking hits that might otherwise strike Earth. Without our lunar guardian, life here would be far more dangerous and unpredictable. So, our journey across the restless blue giant comes to an end. We've surfed the chaotic waves whipped up by a distant storm, dived into the deep cosmic rhythm of the tides, and even taken a rather terrifying trip to a world without a moon. We've seen that the constant motion of our oceans is not just random sloshing, but a grand performance conducted by forces both near and far. It's a story of wind giving the sea a shove, of the very ground beneath our feet flexing and breathing, and of a silent, gravitational handshake across 250,000 miles of empty space. The ocean never sits still because our entire planet is locked in a dynamic dance with the cosmos. From the tiny ripples on a pond to the monstrous tides of the Bay of Fundy, every movement of water tells a tale. It speaks of the planet's lumpy, bumpy geography, which turns a simple tidal pulse into a complex global symphony of sloshing basins and funneling bays. It carries the energy of a storm that raged a week ago and halfway around the world. Every crash of a wave on the shore is the final, dramatic release of a long story. It's a beautiful and intricate system where physics, geology, and astronomy all come together to create the living, breathing, and ever-moving world we know. The next time you stand by the sea, take a moment to appreciate the sheer genius of it all. As you watch the waves roll in, remember the wind that shaped them. As you notice the tide line creeping up the sand, give a little nod to the moon, our silent gravitational shepherd, for its tireless work. The ocean's restlessness is the planet's heartbeat, a sign of a world that is active, dynamic, and very much alive. It's a rhythm that has shaped life, sculpted landscapes, and inspired wonder for all of human history. We are incredibly lucky to live on such a wonderfully wobbly, watery, and restless planet. And that, really, is the biggest takeaway. Our world is not a static rock floating in space. It's a place of constant, beautiful motion. The waves and tides are not just background noise, they are the main event. They are a daily reminder of our connection to the rest of the solar system, a visible link to the moon and sun that govern our days and nights. So thank the wind for the surf, and thank the moon for the tides. They work together to ensure our ocean never gets boring, and frankly, our awesome planet wouldn't be the same without them.
Thank you for watching a WiseHooter Learning video. If you would like a shout out at the end of a future video, please have your first name emailed to WiseHooterLearning@yahoo.com.